lie if you show me your okay.
Well,
what kind of coffee are you drinking?
oh, thank you for asking. Okay, so I just bought some coffee from some old friends of mine who own a roastery.
What?
Called Rose Park Roasters. Yes, dude. So like, yes, 10 years ago, these guys were like, they were obsessed with coffee, and they're like, we're going to start a roastery. And I was like, that sounds great. But also in a, sure, I like crazy ideas. Why not? Maggie, it's working for them.
Whoa.
It's working for them. They have several stores. And Maggie, their coffee is the equivalent of like really good tea. Like, you know how really good tea has flavors? You're like, oh, I didn't think I would like drinking that.
Yeah.
That's what the coffee is.
What?
It's like rose sometimes and like lavender, the flavor in coffee. It's amazing, Maggie.
I will absolutely buy some of that coffee. I assume they sell online? Because
They do. It's very expensive, but I think like for a treat, it's like treat coffee.
Cool.
And I also love these guys, so I buy it once in a while.
Right.
Rose Park Roasters for all the podcasteteers who
Dang.
would like to patron my friends.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, like,
Yeah,
that's
they're
a
good dudes.
free advertisement, but also great cause. So, like,
They earned it.
They earned it.
because the coffee's quite good.
that's great. I love flowered flavor things in bake. Oh, it's great. I have there's these lavender shortbread cookies that are in my refrigerator right now.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh no!
Oh,
I need to give you an address to drop those off at curbside for old AG. I'll Venmo you.
I absolutely will. You don't need to Venmo me. I'll drop them off.
No, you don't have to do that. That's very sweet. What are you drinking? What's that blue cylinder full of goo that you're sipping
My
on?
blue goose cylinder. From a distance, it does kind of look like the blue Bonta milk from Galaxy's Edge, doesn't it?
It does.
Just from
Yes.
a little bit.
A little bit.
So for our coffee process in this time has been at night we'll make a double strength French press. Put it into like little mason jars. They get cold overnight, so in the morning you got cold brew. You put it in a cup. You add some water. There you go. I know.
Wow, that's industrious.
It's pretty.
Right there.
It's industrious.
Right there. Yeah, it is, and I admire that. Anytime you hear liquid and mason jar, though, your eyebrows got to go up just a little bit. You're like,
If it doesn't crack.
I haven't seen your sweet face in too long.
It's been so long.
It's been so long. The audience
Doesn't know. No.
doesn't appreciate the experience of Maggie as a human being. Like right now, she's just placing clothespins on her face, just because that's the kind of thing she might do.
They're everywhere.
It's a real pinhead operation we're doing here now. Thank you. Yeah, really enjoying that. So the audience also deserves to hear the conversation we had before we started.
Yes.
Which was, I told you, and this is true, I really feel like you're underappreciated for your headgear, for hats and headgear. I feel like you're underappreciated. And then
Thank
you
you.
launched into a thing. Please remind them.
Okay. Yeah. So, I am happy that you brought up my hats because I love hats and I've always worn hats. And what I shared with you is that growing up, I did a lot of plain dress up with a very, very elaborate hats. Helped on by my mother, who, saw me as a small child, doll to, put outfits onto. But yeah, so just a lot of huge hats, a lot of long dresses, and a lot of fake cigarette holders.
That's not a thing I normally
so a lot
give a
of
doll.
Old Hollywood inspired. Right. At a young age, I really thought I was going to grow up to be Cindy Crawford, yelling my head off.
Sure.
In black and white films, which I still thought were a thing at the time.
So it's a real amalgam of different influences. It's a real smashing together of maybe 90s jeans plus 40s headgear plus just inanimate dolls. That's that's the past. What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do when you're a kid? You don't have the tools to to dissect what people tell you to wear. You kind of just put it on and think that it's normal until you realize later it's not.
You get about 10 good years of corrupting a child's sensibilities when you're a parent. You get 10 real good years to make them into real weirdos, if that's what you want to do.
I think they succeeded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if only they could see you now placing clothespins on your chin for amusement. If only they could see that.
Oh, my mom religiously listens and watches everything that I do.
Oh, wow.
And reads my Twitter feed. So,
oh, wow.
Hi, Mom.
What are we gonna do about this this fuck playlist then? Because I'm concerned about
Here's long ago, and my mother knows this, is that I don't put her. I can't factor her into any of my comedy, any of my public persona.
That's fair.
Because the world deserves unfiltered Maggie, and
Maggie minus mom equals world deserves.
Maggie minus mom. I love you, Mom. I know she'll.
That's very sweet.
I do.
I also love you, Ms. Fish. You've raised quite a wonderful lady, and what a fun person. Yeah, Denise Ganser, my mother, does not ever chance upon my podcast.
Does not ever.
No,
That's nice.
She does know your name now.
In a way that's like. Oh, does she?
Now she does. Yeah.
Denise, I've never met Denise. Have you met my? You haven't met my parents. You've met some of my college buddies.
Yes, I did. Nobody from Cracked ever met my parents. And there are reasons that I'm sure will emerge as this podcast goes. In part, I felt both parties would not benefit from that exchange. I didn't think either party would benefit from that. I really didn't think so. I just didn't see how anybody won from that scenario.
That's good foresight,
Yeah. Well, I heard this probably about 8 times from different people, like Cody for sure and Dan once or twice. I really want to meet your parents, as though like that will explain the way I am, and I'm like,
explain
it won't.
Something.
I'm telling you right now, the mystery will deepen. You won't understand.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I feel like for the most part, I feel like when people meet my parents, it helps. When people meet my best friend Molly growing up, that really helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Molly. So when I was a senior at Northwestern, Molly also got into Northwestern. It was a freshman.
Oh, wow.
So her and I had a wonderful year of college together. So all of my college buddies met her, and all of them said that I make much more sense as a person
post Molly
next to the person that I grew up. Yes,
in the Molly era.
So
interesting. Interesting. I'll have to meet this person and see if I agree with that. Because that's
you'll have to. It's like the prequel is what is.
But it was
it's
a
like
good
a prequel to the.
Yeah.
It was a good prequel.
No Jar Jars in this showcase.
No.
Unless you think of yourself as a Jar Jar. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not saying no to that. I just recently watched that again, and it's unbelievable that anybody thought Jar Jar was a good idea. Like, it's
so unbelievable.
It's like, how did that happen? It's impossible. So hey, do you mind if I?
Did you just watch them? Yes.
Oh no, please. What were you saying?
Oh no. Well, I also had the same instinct that we should probably start talking about our stuff. But I was going to say that we also recently rewatched the prequels.
Did you?
And all of the films. And the director commentaries for the new films.
Epic.
So I'm steeped in Star Wars.
You are humming in a galaxy a long time ago. Yeah. So,
but that's all I have to add.
Okay. Well, we'll just know that as the backdrop to our conversation today. Which we need. Yeah, we needed it. So Maggie, maybe you could tell me just how have things the last couple weeks been? I feel like everyone wants to know how is Maggie holding up under the quarantine?
For the most part, great, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of this, and I've talked to other people who feel similarly. parts of the quarantine do for me recall like being in middle school, like having a lot of free time. Creatively, I feel very like nourished just having time away from like the business side of everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, has been great. And like I've had like a lot, personal creative breakthroughs on projects that I, been working on for a while. So that's all great. Being with Will is great.
Yeah.
But they're just like this morning was rough though.
Yeah.
'Cause we're still, shooting and writing and everything for the channel. And just today, because we were working on a subject that was more annoying than anything. It was like a subject that's annoying, that is like annoyingly relevant. Which is kind of a downer because,
yeah, you can only comment on dark things for so long before it stains you a little bit.
Right. And I also, to put it on me, like I didn't do a good enough job of like making the script, light in enough areas. Especially because we break it up like 2 camera and then VO. So the things that, I put on the 2 camera were a lot of like heavy analytical stuff. And like halfway through, I was just starting to be like, oh man.
Like you weren't nailing your lines or what, or you were just.
No, just like I was nailing that, but it's just it being a very cynical movie. We're covering a very cynical director. Spoiler alert: we're covering Zack Snyder.
Oh, baby!
Yeah, baby. And just like comparing, the George Romero Dawn of the Dead to his Dawn of the Dead, which, spoiler alert, oddly places it on Islam, is like, why?
Wow.
Yeah, wow. In the height of like Islamophobia after, the whole 9/11 like Iraqi invasion, like and like him like arguing against Romero's like, no, people like should work together, and it kind of being this bloodbath of like, no, people are inherently bad and like this kind of nihilism that's like hard to cover, hard to make light, but important to cover because so anyways.
So
all to say.
So you've kind of and just so the audience knows, it's my responsibility to bring this ruthless honesty to myself and to Maggie. That's one of my qualities, and Maggie knows this. So you've kind of been vague about what exactly the problem was. Is it that the material, like did you collapse into an argument? Is that what happened, or what?
No, I more just started crying. I was like, saying these like cynical jokes over covering a cynical movie while trying not to be cynical, because I don't actually think that's very helpful in the long run, but also because I particularly cherry-picked the parts of the script that were, cynical, whereas once we're done with it, it's going to be great and funny and, and poignant and light, but just the things that I picked to cover today on camera were just like hard, and then I just started crying. Like I just started feeling sad.
And you pay, that's tough, man, because we pay a secret toll to be in a headspace that's critical or cynical. Like you pay a toll for that. That's interesting. And were you aware that it was coming? Or did it take you by surprise?
A little bit. Last night I took a look at the script again, and I felt really good about it, and I still feel really good about it. It's going to be great. I'm very excited. It's called Into the Snyderverse, and we're covering a lot of different aspects, so it'll be great. But I think also when I perform, I do take it very seriously, and I take it like a performance. So, like nailing jokes and nailing the way that I'm speaking about something. But part of that is in performances, doing it again and from the beginning again. Not that we do a lot of takes, but I think just that repetition, in that headspace can get.
You can lose your mind.
Yeah, or, just doing like a dramatic monologue or something, like the same thing will happen where, I'm in the headspace, so I'm performing it from that point of view. And then after a couple times, it's like I am actually crying because I actually do feel those feelings that I'm trying to invoke. So,
and that's what acting is. I mean, that's what acting is, right? Like, people don't understand. Actors never. They don't they don't imitate feelings. Bad actors imitate feelings. Great actors feel feelings, which means that's why Heath Ledger went through everything he went through as the Joker. That's why you hear the story of method acting costing actors stuff. So Maggie's suffering for these jokes.
I'm suffering for the art. But I mean, which is like true, but also I love doing it, and that is why I love acting because it is so exhaustive, and it comes with the territory, and so
worthy sacrifice.
Overall, doing great. Today was rough, but also I think it's going to be a great video. So all in the service is something that I'm very excited for.
I can't wait to watch. So, I'm very excited to see it.
What about you, Adam?
Oh.
How have you been?
I last sprung into tears, not this very week. Actually, no, I didn't. But so this week I moved.
That's right.
Which was in this time a very. It was fine, but it was it just added a lot of stress and work to get it because I'm doing it by myself. So like, and I had to hire movers.
Right.
So because I hired movers. I was just sort of more aware of all the disease stuff, and that's in part because they're literally a foreign person stepping into your space after months of being quarantined. They were very nice and very professional and did a fantastic job, but you're just sort of thinking about it all day.
Right, yeah.
And I spent like a full 5 hours maybe just like spraying everything I owned down with Lysol. Yeah, I did it. I did it.
Yeah.
And not because I'm judging the guys. It's just like, look, you have to do it. So I haven't moved this body that way in like years. This whole body has not done all the things I made it do in like quite some time. So I was sore and everything, but this is my favorite apartment I've lived in I think 4 years. I think 4 or 5 years, maybe longer. Yeah.
That's cool.
You saw my place in
That's
Culver.
cool.
I think this place is a little better.
The photos that you sent me are, I think, we chatted about this off screen, behind the screen,
right?
Offline. Adam sent me photos, and the straight lines are just beautiful. Everything's like bright and clean. It's lovely and gorgeous. Yeah.
This is one of the reasons why I enjoy this friendship, because you picked up on a thing that I'm like, oh yeah, that's true, and I've never articulated it, which is like straight lines. Like I'm very passionate about that. For evidence, go back and watch Rom.com. Have you ever seen that show Rom.com I did for Cracked?
Yes, I have.
It is only straight lines. It is only straight lines. It's like not in terms of quality, but in terms of visuals. It's like Wes Anderson meets a Kubrick film. Like it's very it's like everything is like very rigid and structured.
I will literally rewatch it today. I have nothing else going on, and I love straight lines. What the fuck do I got going on?
Yeah. That's great.
You and I have that in common, I think. I don't direct often, but whenever I do, I find myself trying to articulate straighter or closer. People don't believe how close I want the camera when I tell them.
Oh, I get
close.
It. You like that. You like that warping intimacy thing. That's as a human being, you like it. Yeah. You would love an Iñárritu film. You could make the shit out of an Iñárritu film.
Ooh.
Birdman. He did Birdman and The Revenant.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I like it. It. I feel like it impedes your personal space in a way that I like.
But you're not like a touchy person. Like in general, you're not like a touchy person. No, most people. Those things go together. So that's interesting. Like visually, you want to get in there, but you're not like a
right.
You know, because
I have a lot of friends that don't like to be touched.
Oh, so maybe you've learned it.
That's maybe like I think I've told you about my best friend Hannah. She's like a no hugger, no touching. Same as Dan O'Brien. No hugging, no touching.
Yes. Well, just so everybody knows that was a temporary thing he was doing. It's not a permanent thing. Yeah.
Well, for Hannah, it's permanent. But I get it. There are people like that where, touch means something else than it means, you know, to me. So.
Sure, of course. Mm-hmm. And you got to respect that. However, I was given a giant bear body, and therefore to not use it for hugs, Maggie, is
crime.
It's really an abomination, is what it is.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you can see.
I agree with that. I agree. Yeah.
Yes, we've signed a contract.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You guys are big old teddy bears.
You know what? When I was like 18, I used to have people that came up and they would hit me, like in a friendly way. I'm putting friendly in quotes, because they just think, oh, he's like 6'3", 230, which is what I weighed then. And he can't feel pain the same way the rest of us can because he's just a gigantic human. That was not true.
Oh no!
It would happen all the time. Just like people like, "What's up, buddy?" Bah! Like getting body gloved and shit. Yeah, right. I'm glad you think. See, you can never imagine that happening to you. Like this is why. Also, there's one more big complaint. Just one more because you're gonna like this.
Right.
I can't turn a corner. I cannot turn a corner without bumping into and frightening a woman someplace. If I turn a corner in a business, if I go to any office,
I really believe that,
and turn a corner, it's inevitable. No matter how gently I take that corner, there will be a small woman on the other side of it. Just like the mountain came down to collect her every single time.
I truly believe that because I have been that woman. Maybe not specifically for you, but just turning corners and seeing anything that's taller than me just being an utter surprise. Also because I'm daydreaming, so that's like a whole other thing. But
also, my mind has flown the coop to some other heavenly realm.
Flown the coop.
Yeah.
But yes, for all small women everywhere,
Yeah, we said that's right. This is the peace treaty between our two peoples.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So should we jump into today's topic? What do you think?
Let's jump in. I forget who goes first. Do you remember?
It's you, I believe, because I went first last time. But for the audience, I just want to say thank you to all of you who weighed in. I think it was over 100 people. Who selected this topic, and I just want you to know
this was a great topic.
It was. We liked it a lot, and we will continue to provide the opportunity for people to select the topics, which we'll discuss at the end. But the topic they picked was "Show me your badly aging high school film." And Maggie, we have two films. They're real films here. Maggie, would you like to share yours first?
Yes.
They're really movies. I
want to heads up and say they're really movies. Do they make the perfect double feature? Maybe. Kind of think maybe
Who
they
can
do.
Say? They might, yeah.
Who can say? So I picked the wonderful gem, the 2005?
Yes.
2005 House of Wax. Starring the wonderful Chad Michael Murray, this other girl who was in other stuff that I don't remember her name.
Elisha Cuthbert is the name of that actress.
Yes, Elisha Cuthbert.
She's probably the most famous person in the movie. Elisha Cuthbert. Yeah, I think so. She was in probably. She was in a couple of movies around that time. She was in like 4 or 5 big movies around that time.
That's right. To me, the biggest star is Chad Michael Murray because One Tree Hill, but that's a whole other. That's a whole other podcast.
The truth is, neither of them are the most famous person because the most famous person you haven't named yet.
Paris Hilton.
A foghorn somewhere needs to go off every time we mention her name. Yeah. Paris Hilton.
In her famed death scene, which was part of the reason that she was signed on, was to kill her on screen.
Oh boy, I have a lot to say about old Paris. And And then a bunch of other people, none of whom are actors I'd seen in anything else that I can remember. Could you?
Right. Again, forgetting the name, the person who is dating Paris Hilton was on a very popular Nickelodeon show.
Okay.
Cousin Skeeter. Which is, it's like,
you're speaking gobbledygook to me. Once we get past, you can't do that on television. Adam really bows out.
Does anyone? This is for the audience. Cousin Skeeter. It was like, I think that was it was him playing against a puppet, basically.
Wait, but it wasn't related to the Doug cartoon, right? To Doug, because didn't they have a Cousin Skeeter on that?
They did. So maybe I'm mixing up the names.
Okay.
Anyways, the show wasn't great. All to say, House of Wax.
House of Wax.
Wow. I guess, should I explain to me what this type of film kind of represents me?
First explain what it is for the audience in case they haven't seen it.
Great. Yeah. Okay, so House of Wax is a remake, technically, of the original House of Wax, starring what's his face?
You're gonna look to me like I would know that. I definitely don't know that.
Oh, really? Oh, you'll know as soon as I say the name.
It's a 1930s film. It's 1933 Mystery of the Wax Museum House. Or no, there's no house. I just added it to it.
The Wax Museum House.
It's by Michael Curtiz. It stars Lionel Atwill, Fay Wray, Glenda Farrell, and Frank McHugh. Any of those names are the one you're looking for?
I thought it was Vincent Price.
I don't believe so. No, not the. Well, he's not in the museum, the Mystery of the Wax Museum movie that this is actually based on.
Right. He is in a different House of Wax movie. Okay, that is
which is crazy that there's this many.
Which is crazy. Wax seems to be a very popular horror genre convention. It's very creepy. It melts disgustingly, which we'll get into.
It does.
Yes, it does. So basically, the broad plot is, a bunch of rambunctious teenagers on their way to a football game. Get sidetracked by a small town that is seemingly deserted with a couple of creepy inhabitants.
Briefly, they get sidetracked by traffic cones. These are not
by traffic cones.
These are not thoughtful, rambunctious college students.
No. Not whatsoever.
Yeah.
So they basically get pulled into this town where they discover an old wax museum that has been mysteriously started by a set of twins, which is a motif in the film that is both just intriguing and kind of impressive that they just even thought of a theme to stick with. Really,
this is a cracked article waiting to happen. Just how did these guys run this town?
Yes.
How did they acquire the assets for it? What how is it running electrically? What the fuck? Yeah,
food. I don't know. And apparently, how are they doing any of that? All to say, it's kind of like, who's the bad twin? Is it the one who owns the wax museum, or is it the kid who's making the wax statues?
Right.
Which they go up against, Chad Michael Murray and the girl who also play twins.
I know.
This idea.
2 sets of twins. My
God. 2 sets of twins.
It's twin off. It's a twin battle.
It's a twin off. It's a twin battle, which is odd because actually the basis of this is kind of just an extension of the slasher horror gross genre that was very popular at the time in the mid 2000s, especially marketed towards high schoolers. Hence, you get a remake of House of Wax, starring a kid from One Tree Hill, starring Paris Hilton, who gets brutally murdered during the film. It's over the top. Some of it comes off as fun, gross horror satire. Some of it there's a little bit of humor going on, but it's all disguised in a gross layer of disgusting horror imagery.
Yeah, it's all gross. It's a very
It's all
gross movie, and
disgusting.
it's not Saw gross. Like it's not torture gross.
No.
It's just like it's looking
like
at someone's
actual
shit gross.
Yeah, there's a couple examples when they drive into, there's like a pit full of dead deer and supposedly human bodies, and she just falls into it. She's like,
right,
save me, covered in,
right, yeah,
blah, gross. And like later, they chop off one of her fingers, and it's like, blah,
that was crazy.
Yeah,
that was crazy. I couldn't believe they cut off the lead female's finger. That was a really bold move, I thought. I was like, whoa, they're going to do that? Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. And when they like, super glue her mouth shut, and then she pries it open.
Yeah.
That was dark. There's some dark stuff.
Some gruesome
and also
shit.
some of fun. Some, like, sex jokes, for the teens.
Again, you just let me know when it's the Paris Hilton section, because that's when we'll talk about all the sex stuff, because that's where it all belongs.
I mean,
is now the time? Is now at Paris Hilton? Okay, am I allowed to comment?
Well, first I'll say the reason that I picked this movie is for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, I think I've always been interested in cinema, if that is not very apparent. So during this time, I was really getting into basically any Oscar bait movie. I think this was the time I was like, okay, like what is the anatomy of an Oscar movie?
Okay.
Why does the Oscar pick these movies? So it was during a time where I was just watching, beginning to end every Oscar winning movie, within a 10-year time period.
Okay.
Simultaneously, everyone in my high school and all of my friends, the only type of film that they would agree to see in any sort of outing was a disgusting horror slasher flick, whatever came out that week.
Why do you think they latched onto that genre so uniformly?
Yeah, I do think that. Well, I think historically the horror slasher always has been marketed to a younger audience. There's something fun and rebellious about it. But especially during that time, it was during the height of the Saw era, and coming off of that, the Hostel series. These actually disturbing, disgusting Hills of Eyes is another one that are so viscerally gross, also kind of like a strange response to 9/11, emotionally we're just not dealing with it, so everything is just kind of mangled and horrific.
It's also kind of mean. It's kind of a mean branch of cinema.
It's a mean branch of cinema. So there are definitely the more hardcore, like I said, Hills of Eyes. I remember renting that with my friend Catherine, who the only thing she would watch was horror. We rented it. We got popsicles, and we both could not finish our popsicles because of how disgusting the movie was.
What kind of popsicle are we talking about here? Were they?
I think I got one of those strawberry shortcake, from one of the giant freezers from the video rental place.
So a pretty epic popsicle.
Pretty epic popsicle. Couldn't finish it. Too disgusting. But also, there's also something about it. A lot of these films are sexually charged, and especially when you're a young woman, dabbling into your sexuality, seeing it depicted anywhere is intriguing in all gamuts. Sure. So even from rom-coms to horror, you're kind of intrigued by all of it. So I think that was a large part of it. Also, at that time was when people started dating, so horror movies are the excuse to hold hands and get weird.
If you need one, a horror movie is like a river Styx ferry right into the underworld of sex.
Oh,
just
absolutely.
Hop right in, my friends.
Hop right in.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually probably the biggest part of why all of my friend groups kept picking these disgusting horror movies that were marketed towards us.
Sure. Just they were going to Bone Town after?
going to Bone Town, and no one was dating me. So to me, it was just like I would have to sit through this disgusting movie.
Yeah.
And then like afterwards they would make out and then be like, all right, I guess I'm going home and watching The Reader because I'm working my way through Oscar movies and which is honestly just as bleak as the terrible horror movie that I just saw
I'm gonna go
in
home.
a different way.
I'm gonna go home and watch Kramer versus Kramer. I hope it'll lift my spirits.
I know. I know. So it was a weird time. But all to say, House of Wax was a movie that was clearly not as bad as Hostel.
Mm-mm.
It had light, funny moments.
Yeah.
There was actual fun sex in it. There was fun sex jokes.
Kinda.
Like, kind of. For the time, it was definitely one that I enjoyed far more than the others that were a lot more mean-spirited.
Yeah.
But I still wanted to pick this because I do think it was emblematic of the type of horror film that was rampant at the time. And yeah, that was kind of like the go-to genre for my day and age.
So as a beacon of your burgeoning sexuality, tell me how this movie has let you down. Or how have you grown distant from it, Maggie?
Man, this movie was weird. This movie was weird.
Yeah.
I mean, all the sex stuff was like, it seemed like on par for the time. Not as fun as like One Tree Hill or
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Not as fun as any of the other stuff that we would use to, like...
To rouse the engines?
To rouse the engines.
To initiate procreation sequence?
To initiate. But also, I felt like this movie, at the time and even now, like, the way it views sex was more of a joke than actual, like... Did that come across to you?
Oh my God, Maggie, absolutely. And here's why.
Yeah.
Here's why. It is Paris Hilton's part in this movie is literally to recreate her sex tape.
Yes.
Everything about it, the way they filmed it, the way they filmed it through a video camera that does not matter except to see her have sex. The video camera plays no part in the story. It's literally just there to watch her the same way that her sex tape was. And then
they don't even do any horror scares with it.
Exactly.
Like,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. Like, so literally she just reenacts the sex tape and then disappears for half the movie and then comes back and dies giving a blowjob. Like dies in an oral sex position.
Because it's through the
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the meanest version of a part I've ever seen. Now, the funny thing is, Maggie, whenever I've told my friends this, they're like, nobody has sympathy for Paris Hilton. Nobody has sympathy for her at all.
Okay, I will say, as I was watching it this time, I laughed at all of her lines.
Oh, they're horrible.
And but almost with her, part of me does think that she is in on the joke.
Oh, so, she's dumb like a fox.
Yes.
She's dumb like a fox. Paris Hilton knows what she's doing. Yeah.
She knows, so like her getting, her recreating the sex tape, getting killed in that manner, like playing the shit out of that type of like friend who just like...
I couldn't figure out what type she was. Is she playing like the I'm going to use this word, but the sluttier sort of like encouraging friend? Is that the thing? It's the like, hey man, I'm doing it. You should do it too.
Yeah, the one who's actually having fun in real life. They are the ones having fun, instead of the responsible girl.
Right.
Basically just the foil to the girl who's like serious about her future. Kind of.
Well, it's hard to say if Elisha Cuthbert is serious about her future exactly, but that's the types that we see in movies for sure. We see those types of movies. I thought it was incredible that you picked this movie. Just absolutely incredible, Maggie.
Really?
Yes.
I'm so ready to hear your thoughts because to me, this is just like, it's the movie that my friend group would put on a lot in the background.
Sure.
And it was a huge staple in my high school time.
It's horrible. It's a horrible movie.
Yeah, it's a horrible movie.
And it's horrible in the sense that there's just nothing to care about.
Yes.
But it is kind of, it's also like badly written, but sometimes it's badly written in a way that's fun. Like, for instance, the boyfriend in this movie gets killed in a very creative, fun way very early, which is not what you would expect. Like, basically...
That's right, yes. The deaths are fun.
The deaths are fun, and they're also not what you expect. And by the end, it's not totally clear that anybody's going to live. It's not totally clear anybody's going to live.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good for a horror film. So it does have that going for it. To me, I latched immediately onto Paris Hilton. Like, I just latched right onto her when I saw this movie. And because she was the thing in that time. Like, that's what makes it so dated.
Yes.
Like, nobody even remembers her after Obama was elected. Like, she just disappeared from the universe. Now, I know she's making money. I know she's doing the perfume line and she's made her money and everything else. But there was a period of time where Paris Hilton was just all over everywhere and everyone had the same opinion about her, which was like essentially that there was a fraudness to her and she was like a rich kid, right? Those are the things. And this movie, it's so funny to watch her in it doing her sex tape again because you asked exactly the question I ask now at this age, which is like, did she know? Does she know she's being is this dumb like a fox? And I've settled on yes, it is. Like she knows what she's doing and it's smart in that way.
Yeah. Well, I also think I do remember the marketing at the time. Part of the marketing push was one that it was slightly satirical or at least a little campy. I do remember that being
definitely
a draw. And also I think what made it stand out from all the hostels and like, you know, the other things that were coming out at the time. So that I do appreciate about it. But the biggest draw was that like you are going to watch this movie because you get to see Paris Hilton like get killed.
Right.
Like that was
she was the
part
draw
of
it, clearly.
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
clearly
and
the
to
gimmick.
Specifically watch her die because like that's fun because we make fun of her.
Right.
We want to see her fucking get, you know.
She's
which is weird.
It's not weird. It's exactly why TMZ exists. Like she is the ultimate. She was the first ultimate reality TV show star that's shameless enough that like, sure, you want to see me get killed? Here's a movie where I do that. You want to see me naked? Here's the thing where that happens. Like whatever, you know. And there's something very, you know, there's a sort of cultural wish fulfillment about Paris Hilton, and this movie is a part of that. And that's what really dates it for me. Is like, oh my god, we used to care so much about this woman, and I just don't now. And you know. It's a warning tale to the Kardashians and the Jenners, and it is. House of Wax needs to be played once a day in the Kardashian home. It's like, behold your future, my friends. It's coming for you. You know, it's coming for you. The Ides of March, they call for thee. So that stood out to me. The only thing that I remembered about it, aside from it being gross, was the sort of sexual point of view of it. Which was like, we're going to go to this campsite and we're all going to fuck, damn it. And they kept making jokes about the two guys who didn't have girlfriends, how they were a couple too, because everyone had to be a couple. So I was watching this, of course, through the lens of like, why did Maggie pick this? And so it's interesting to hear you describe it as like, you know, this is your way of not experiencing what the rest of your classmates were experiencing.
Yeah.
So like out of this,
I'm that guy.
Yeah, you're that weird guy with the hat. You're the guy with the hat.
Yeah.
You know, who's kind of a tragic figure with the camera.
Yeah.
You're the guy with the hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And yeah.
Were you like objective about your high school experience at the time? Were you like one of those like do you belong on that Judd Apatow show everybody loves so much? Freaks and Geeks. Do you belong on Freaks and Geeks? Are you one of those outsiders?
Oh, man. Kind of, but my high school experience is so unique that whenever It's fair because I went to a Catholic school in a very small town. Graduated with 30 kids from the same school. It's great. I went to the same school that my father went to. I had the same basketball coach who coached my father.
Wow.
I had, at one point, there was 13 different fishes in this single school system. All of my cousins, all of us were fishes, and we were all in the same school. I was the youngest, so generations of fishes had already been in the school.
Had swum through the hallowed halls.
Had swum through. I had an aunt and an uncle who worked at the elementary school.
Oh, well, no wonder you weren't having sex then. How can you? How could that happen?
No one would. Well, that's the other thing is kids were, but we also weren't. We were so put under this microscope.
Yes.
Like my best friend started dating someone in high school, and they used to hang out before class in their car, and they got pulled into the principal's office and accused of having sex before class at school. Which now you could sue
accused
a prince. Yes.
For what? What? On what basis?
On no basis.
What?
On people thinking that my friend was I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Just
they didn't catch him. They didn't catch him doing anything, right?
No, they just spent time alone, and and sometimes they'd be late for class.
It's exhausting. Catholic schools, and I say this as a person of faith. Catholic schools seem to generate more often the thing that they want to prevent than anything else. I don't know why, but that's and that's my outside observation. I never went to a Catholic school. They really seem to create that. I don't know. I don't know why. Something about it's not working. Yeah. Something about Catholic and school doesn't work together.
I have a few ideas, but that's another podcast. Right. But all to say that so, my class, we were so small that by the time we hit our second year of high school, every single clique had been demolished, and every party, everyone was invited. It was a very no, we're going to stop this bullshit. We are all going to be friends. We, only have 2 years left together. So
let's sing
and from
all
then
two
on,
of them.
yes, let's fucking sing. So we were known as the hippie class that all loved each other, that would that really took care of each other, that didn't have any real cliques, so me being an uncool kid didn't matter because we were all at the same
you got away
party.
With it. You got away with it. Yeah. You didn't.
Yeah.
So did you? I know these are kind of lurid questions, and I don't mean them to be. So you can tell me.
No,
if it's,
not at all.
So were you did you feel a need to I'm gonna go have sex in these situations? No. Okay, so you never felt that kind of pressure.
No, never. And I also didn't one, no one in my hometown wanted to date me. Two,
did they think you were weird? Is that the deal?
Yes, I was weird. But also, I think people just knowing you since you're a kid.
Yeah, hard to grow up and then suddenly be now she's pretty or whatever.
Right. Yeah. It kind of erased a lot of that in our class. So there was a lot more brotherly sister love. I was also second cousins with a lot of kids in my class, so it was a lot of us are literally related.
Right. It's definitely a school of fish in there for you. That's the other problem with it. Which, by the way, if you ever write the movie about this, there's your title. You're welcome.
School of Fish. It's
School of Fish.
But whenever one time, the one person I dated was a new kid.
Yeah.
And I all but bullied him into being my boyfriend. Because we were friends.
You just stop hitting me.
Because at the time I was so desperate, and we were friends, so I was what? We're friends. Let's just do it. What?
Right.
What is there to lose? What is there to lose? We dated for 4 days, and we were both oh man, yeah, we're just friends.
Yeah, that happens though. That really happens at that age where you're just we're gonna try this dating word out and see if the word applies to us, and it doesn't.
Yeah, and it just doesn't. And and so few opportunities, like no one's visiting the town.
Right.
No one's choosing to come to the Catholic school
Right.
when there's a giant public school next door that we're borrowing their football field anyway.
And that's basically a Bacchian orgy over there anyway. So like, why would you come here?
Right.
So I hope you don't mind. I'd like to transition into the other movie just for time.
Yes.
But I think
Absolutely.
these conversations are going to bleed over, by the way. I think we're going to keep talking about it.
I agree.
So the movie I picked was Can't Hardly Wait. This
movie!
I know. This movie came out in 1998 and was about graduating high school in Orange County the year that I graduated high school in Orange County. Yeah, it's literally, and I have to tell you, Maggie, it does summarize the time. It does feel like how it felt at that time.
Wow.
It does. Now it's still a movie, but but nothing about it felt offensive when it came out. It felt like, what a great movie.
Yeah.
This is how it is.
There's a lot that I see in it. I, as someone who, again, like for the reasons we just discussed, had a lot of male friends in high school. The friendship between the two, I was like, damn, for the time, I can see why this was like felt kind of important.
Oh, yeah.
Like at the end, they're just like,
it did.
That,
It did. So for everybody, anybody who hasn't seen it, it's just a teen comedy. It's basically about a party the night of graduation, and it's sort of, it's all. If it was done well, it'd be like like an Altman film, because it just sort of passes through a bunch of different people's lives, and they all are trying to get something out of this party,
right?
And then you just sort of follow and see, do they achieve their objective, and so the main things that everybody remembers are that Jennifer Love Hewitt is the big actress in it. And it was one of her big first roles. I mean, she was on TV, but it was like in movies, it was the beginning of her big movie career. And she was the love interest in it. And then Ethan Embry, who very famously was in Empire Records as the kid who loves Guar. Preston, I want to say. I can't remember his name. The kid who loves Guar is the sort of main love, the male. I would say he's the protagonist of the film, although it sort of follows everybody. Right. And he's also, I think, the worst character in the movie, but we'll get to that in a little bit here. Far and away the worst character. It has Seth Green, who is playing Seth Green. Seth Green, who's playing, and I don't know how to talk about this sensitively, so I might make mistakes, and I apologize. But essentially, he's a white guy who's acting like a black guy, which was...
Oh, yeah. Well, he is, and they kind of address it. He is culturally appropriating to not be himself.
It was a thing at the time, too, especially in Orange County. They had terms for it that I'm not going to say. But they were said all the time in high school. I probably said it in high school. And they do address it in the movie, but it's also not questioned. It just sort of happens.
It's not the way we talk about it now, as like in a critical manner. No.
Seth Green's character is what made me think about how badly aged this movie is, because everything he does is like, whoa. But also, I think he represents earnestly the young male sexuality of that time. I do think he does represent how people felt back then about sex. Yeah. I mean, a certain percentage of people,
Right. There are the moments when, when he's very vulnerable, I felt like, ooh, that rings very true to me, as someone at that age.
Absolutely. That's the thing about this movie. It's really dumb, but it has a few sincere moments that still kind of work. Like when he connects to Lauren Ambrose, who, by the way, later on went to play Claire in 6 Feet Under, and she is magnificent in that show. Just astounding in it. She plays a sort of jaded high school senior, never was really included, so she's sort of bitter at everybody, which is a type, a very 90s type. Yeah. Who then sort of calls him on his bullshit, and then they connect, and they end up being the equivalent of Maggie's bullied boyfriend for the rest of the movie. Basically. Yeah. So there's that story, and then I think my favorite story that was also good at the time, but I still like it more, is the kid from Hook, Jack from Hook, is the nerd who's gonna take revenge on the lead jock. And so to do that, he's going to infiltrate the party and then get the lead jock to come chasing after him, and his nerd friends are going to pull some prank. That's the theory. Instead, what happens is he joins the party and he ends up making a bunch of friends, and everybody fucking loves him, and he has the night of his life and bonds with the lead jock, and it's awesome. Did you think it was awesome? Did you like that when you watched it?
It was awesome. I loved that part. And also, again, like, say, that kind of was my experience of high school. Like, the stereotypical, like it kind of, partying together did actually fizzle out all of those, like, weird divides. Because kind of like, oh, no, we're just having fun. Right.
I'm so glad you said that, because Grad Night, did you guys have Grad Night? Do you know what that is?
Yes,
so Grad Night, if you guys go to some school or never went to school where you had this. So Grad Night is a party that the school / student body will put on to like for graduation, right? And like every year, so my school, we had like a weird gambling thing, like a Vegas casino type thing, and it's an overnight party. And this movie captures exactly what that was like. Like, it captures exactly what it was like, because you realize at that party, you're like, everything that I've invested 18 years of my life is now over. And you realize I never talked to that person. And like, I don't know why. I was never friends with this person, and I don't know why. It didn't matter. There was a girl there in high school who hated my guts. Because you can imagine how, Maggie, I could be an argumentative type of person.
Oh, I can.
You can. So in high school, I was a lot more of a self-righteous / I'm much smarter than you, and here it comes type of person.
Yeah.
And I've hopefully learned since then not to be that way.
We all have our defenses.
Yes, thank you.
At that age, especially.
Thank you. So
oh my God.
I clobbered her in something. I don't remember what it was. I don't even remember what the key ingredient was. And she spent the next like year and a half just making a massive scene all the time in class about this, right? It just happened over and over and over. And I'm not being dramatic. She was really nasty about it, and the teachers never fucking did anything, which was like, can you step in? Like, they never did.
Yeah.
Then came Grad Night. At Grad Night, we ended up sitting next to each other on something. And then we just talked for a minute, and we ended up hanging out for like an hour. And it was this whole, I know, and it's this whole thing where it was like, why did we do that? Why did we get into this thing? And there was no good reason for either of us. And I left feeling like, man, I really missed out on a friend that I could have had. That's really dumb and weird that I did that. So that's the thing about the movie that I like still, that it kind of captures everything's falling apart. And we have one more night to sort of go yay high school, but that night inevitably is sort of anti-high school. You know what I mean? It's just sort of like,
because it's like, oh wait, we're
right, like you're only uncool because we've thought that for 18 years. Like at this point, it's probably based on a thing you did 10 years ago that doesn't matter. You know, so that about it I really like. Even Emery's character in this movie, just the entitlement of thinking that this woman needs to hear from him. Like, I really feel bad about Jennifer Love Hewitt when I watch this movie, because her character gets treated like dog shit. The whole movie, she gets treated very badly. Yeah. And nobody, including the filmmakers, seems to think they need to make that right. They're just sort of like, yeah, that's high school.
Yeah, it is weird. I do remember her having a monologue where I felt like she at least got to speak a little bit to that. I forgot exactly which. I think it's towards the end. Yeah, a little bit. It definitely didn't go as far, but that moment I was like, oh, that's, it's, like I felt her frustration, even though it wasn't accurately addressed. I felt like I was able to empathize with her.
I think you're supposed to, but I just didn't think that people would do what they did to her. Like I just didn't believe that.
Yes. Yeah.
That seemed like like I get that it's the end of high school, so people sort of, like they don't retreat to their normal boundaries, but like everybody's treating her like shit, and nobody cares. Like she has no friends here. And that's very
also
weird.
Her friend group, it was very weird. Her friend group is weird because I remember her. There's a scene where she like goes to them, and they're kind of treating her like shit, and she's also like rolling her eyes and being. And the group of women is incredible because they're all like famous actors now who are like incredible. It's wild to watch this movie for the actors who are in it.
It's a really great cast, like a really great cast. Yeah.
Amazing cast. But that was a moment where I was like, that is weird because not only is it so not my experience, because no one treated each other, especially the women in, obviously we had our tips and divides and, there are aspects of young womanhood that are terrible. We do treat each other terrible.
I've seen Mean Girls.
But it's never, but it's never specifically like that where she's coming, like, usually we're the ones that are overhyping each other. So that was weird. I was like, wait, why don't they even kind of like each other? And there are bits and pieces like that, like, even though people are friends, there's still kind of like a backhandedness to it that felt
fake.
Odd.
Yeah. It's sort of like everybody among the regal class at this school. They're all assholes. Like they just, like none of them have any substance to them. And I understand that movies have always been nerds are better than bullies. Like that's always that's every movie ever. And this movie is a little less mean-spirited toward jocks. Not that I'm saying jocks need pity. I'm just saying I don't want on my tombstone that I'm out here defending jocks. That's not what I want.
Okay, well, should you rate? Because I had an order to buy your tombstone, and it said jocks for life.
Oh my God. We have really progressed as friends. The fact that
I'm ordering your tombstone.
You're like, I think I'm just gonna save him a little time, save him a little post.
Take a wild swing that does not align with your values.
Skip his family, too. His family doesn't need to know.
No.
Tombstone-wise. Anyway, I'm definitely not saying that jocks need to be defended. I'm just saying that most movies treat them like they're like cutthroat Hollywood executives.
Yes.
And not like they're people who care.
Yes.
About their friend, at least they're friends,
Yeah, well, like I was saying that, growing up, again, small high school, there was a lot of, double duty. Like I was a theater kid, but I was also, I was a 3-sport athlete. So yeah, the lines are blurred. No, the strict jocks were also like the class, everyone was pulling double duty here. So
so your school, so you didn't have to like Mrs. Doubtfire this problem.
No.
You didn't have to like go in disguise to fit into the two different groups.
Yeah. There's actually, I was the lead in a play finally my senior year, and in the same gym, half the gym was being used for my basketball team to practice, and the other half was my theater like
oh my God.
Rehearsal. Yeah.
You're like high school Bo Jackson. You're like Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
You have to do like all the jobs. And be the best at all of them.
I mean, that's what led me to be the overachiever that I am today. So
if only the audience could see your glasses and know what you have accomplished. Yeah. So okay, but the reason that I picked this movie and that I wanted to talk about it with you is Seth Green's character.
Yes.
We talked a little bit about it, but like the thing that I feel like just has to be talked about is like, so everything he does is offensive, and yet at the time in 1998, nobody thought that was. Everybody thought that was a pretty accurate parody, right? It was definitely a joke. It wasn't to be treated like this guy has got it all figured out,
right?
But it also wasn't like an egregious thing to put in a movie at all, which now is like. You can't have that, no matter how many call-outs you do. But the other thing is, like... Oh, I'm sorry. Please. No, Maggie, please.
Oh, no. I was just going to... Just a side note. The first thing that I ever auditioned for in LA was a Wayans Brothers film that had a female character that was... copy and paste this Seth Green character. Yes. Yes.
Maggie,
yes.
I would have paid many American dollars to see you play that role across from Marlon Wayans.
I had fun prepping for that role. Like it
Wow.
felt wrong, and I knew I wasn't gonna get cast because it was my first audition in LA, and it was like and I figured I'd probably have to turn it down for my morals if I got it, but it was pretty wild to be like, whoa, yeah, in the year of our Lord. Whatever it was, this is a real audition that I'm reading and expected to. So
did that movie ever come out? Did that movie ever get
yes, I think it's a 50 Shades parody that I don't think anyone saw. Yeah.
50 Shades is already a parody.
I know.
We don't need to make fun of it.
No.
Anyway,
I digress.
I'm not here to judge 50 Shades. I'm sure 50 Shades is going to come up at some other point in our conversations. Maybe.
Oh, I hope.
I have a feel. Oh, I think it's not impossible.
Wait till I make you read Twilight. We'll see.
Maggie, I'm so glad that you said that because Dave and I are going to launch a podcast about Twilight next week.
Are you really? Are you kidding me? Oh my Lord. You have to have me on to have my perspective from the time as a teenage girl reading that in the time.
Well, that does sound wonderful, and maybe we
Yes.
will do that. But the plan is for just us two goblins to sit there and watch Twilight for the first time and then have a talk because we're the wrong people to watch it.
Yes,
That's the plan.
yes.
That's the plan. Anyway, total sidetrack.
Yes.
Okay, the reason I care about Seth Green, because I don't want this episode to be an eternity in the poor audience's ears. The reason I care about Seth Green is that he represents a really interesting problem, which is he ends up pairing up with Lauren Ambrose's character, who is amazing, right? Like Lauren Ambrose is like such a 90s person in that movie.
Yeah.
And also definitely a person I know. Like there's a specific human being I know who's exactly like her character in that movie.
Yes.
So that alone makes it worth the price of admission. But the other equally fascinating thing about it is that they end up hooking up in a bathroom, and like, can you really fathom that happening? Like, can you see that happening at all?
Do I believe them copulating in a bathroom? Well, I guess my question is, did you have did your high school have any love stories like this? Where it's like old flames hooking up for the last time.
I don't know what old flame fucking means in high school. I have no idea what that means.
That's true.
But I think you asked exactly the right question about this, which is like, well, wait a minute, like, what is this like people from two different walks of life who have this history together meet and connect thing? Like, what is that thing? That doesn't feel like a real romance to me. Does that feel like real to you?
It doesn't. However, again, there's about, I think there's exactly 5 couples that dated in high school that are married and have children from my small, 30 kid class. So
that's a lot of them.
That's
like a third.
It's
right.
It's a crazy amount, and part of me is like, it feels similar in a way, like, I don't know, like,
sure.
And they're happy and they have kids, and they I guess they just worked when they were young, and they grew up together as they got married. I don't know,
but that's but that's the opposite story of this, right? Like, this is a thing I can believe if they met again when they were like 35. Like, they're 35. It's like, yo, what the fuck, bro?
Yeah.
You were doing this whole thing in high school, and like, I know who you are because like I watched you bathe when we were 3 or whatever. That I could believe more easily because in the longer arc of your life, there's more movements. Like in the symphony of your time on this planet, there are more movements when you're by that age. But like, I have a hard time believing it in high school because it's just too much of the veil dropped.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like too much of the, listen, man, all this is fake. Like, you're just a girl in a bathroom, and I'm just a guy in a bathroom, and
why don't we just
we got
fuck? Let's just fuck.
Have you
Also, sex in
thought
a
about it?
bathroom is chill negative, right? Can we agree that's chill negative?
What's chill negative mean? That's a cool phrase.
Oh, it tests negative for chill. If you tested it,
Oh,
it
it
would
does
come back
negative
negative
for
for chill.
oh, chill
Yeah.
negative.
I'm
I
sorry.
have had
That's like an
great
old
sex
joke
in a
for me. I've been doing
bathroom.
that. Oh, great. Well, I guess they'll have to save that for the sex in the bathroom
The sex
episode.
We'll save it for the mushroom trip episode because
Oh my god. Whoa. You just
Adam
dropped
just jumped out of his chair.
I did. You just dropped such a tease right there. Oh my god. Can't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Makes it worth all the trouble we've had recording.
I mean-
Spoilers for the audience. Yeah. Okay.
Behind
So
the scenes spoilers.
okay. The only reason I care about this thing though with Seth and Lauren is not to dispute. Love doesn't work that way.
Right.
As though I'm the fucking expert on that. It's more to say that like I am fascinated by like high school movies are always wish fulfillment. They're always wish fulfillment, and they're also always like they're a little nostalgic, but also a little bit like I'm going to correct what happened in high school. They're always a course correction for high school. They're never what high school is.
Right.
They're always like, let's fix high school. It'd be cool if we fixed it this way.
Yeah, like a retrospect. Like it is people in their 30s writing this, thinking about
Easily, yeah.
thinking about their experience. In a way that's not it's almost like they don't want to put themselves back in those shoes. They want to course correct.
And yet the Seth Green Lauren Ambrose romance is the most idealistic idea of romance I've seen in a movie in a very long time. Because it so assumes that everything that people put on themselves is a surface, and beneath that is like sort of a core human being, and you can drop that just like that. I would argue that the times we're living in now, Maggie, are an argument to the opposite effect. That we're a lot more stained by our context than we like to believe that we are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Stained is maybe a harsh word. We're a lot more influenced, I suppose. You know.
I like Stained. I like the dramatics of it.
Also, Stained was about 1 year from being able to be in this playlist for this movie, by the way. It's like 1 year before. Yeah, you like that shit?
Yeah.
Stained is horrible. Anyway, horrible. Yeah, so as an almost 40-year-old male now, looking back at Seth Green and like what he's trying to do, the delusion of it is the thing that is like the most upsetting about it. You know what I mean? And it's not the delusion of like, I'm going to have sex with a woman tonight. Like many men have set out on that hero's journey and succeeded or failed. It's more that I believe that he needs a sort of a thick layer of self-deception to engage in dating at all, because he's afraid of where he actually fits into the dating, like the sawmill of dating,
right?
Where, like you're matched up with this person and you're matched up with that person, and like the movie is a little gentle with him about it, like much more gentle with him than with her,
right?
Because men don't want to know where they actually fit in, unless where they fit in is like the Jude Law tier or above,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
We don't want to know that. We like, please don't tell me, please don't quantify my looks. Unless I'm at least an 8, you know what I mean? Like, please don't.
Right.
Please, I believe that. I mean, there's gonna be some confident dude out there who's gonna, you know, slice me with his fucking abs in the comments and just be like, I'm totally comfortable. Yeah, fuck you. Then why do you have those abs, bro?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
right.
I believe I believe men don't want to know that, and so we've created all these like layers of deception to trick ourselves and ideally women into believing those things don't exist.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true. I remember, like, I think I've said this, but for all of my middle school years and the first early bits of high school, I was very unattractive. But I grew into myself, became attractive.
Real butterfly situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very much so. But then even afterwards, the only men that would, you know, make it clear that they were interested in me were people
I mean, not that I even believe in leagues, but it was like
Leagues,
people
though.
that, yeah,
Leagues.
like,
yes.
I mean, and they were like my friends because we were all friends, but it was like, but that made it even weirder. It's like, why are you asking me out? Like, it is because you think that I am cooler than you, even though I don't think I am, you think I am. And so that's the only reason, honestly, that you're pursuing me is because you do think that I'm
like this amount of hot plus that amount of fun.
Yes,
equals like the math equation equals I deserve to be with a Maggie. I get one Maggie.
Equals like, if I hold up a sign at her soccer game, she'll love it. It's like like I don't know what to tell you, dude.
Not to be forward, but will you score with me tonight? Like there's a soccer sign for you. Yeah. That's pretty good. Mm-hmm. So, you said it exactly right, though. I don't want to pretend like men are the only people doing this. I just know that men are doing it.
I was also doing it too.
Yeah.
Men, or at least testing, like, where do I fit, actually? So,
Yeah. There's also a lot of men in the world, and I think I might include myself in this, who sort of somewhere in their hearts believe, like, I could actually just force my way into a league I don't belong in. I can do things. I could achieve a great thing, or I can trick someone with my my mystery shroud of personality or talents or whatever into thinking like, oh, maybe he is a 7.
Oh yeah,
men think that. I'm telling you right now, men think that. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, that is amazing.
Also, high school is so good at being the very last time that this like caste system that is our existence is based entirely on fiction, which is why we're so comfortable commenting on it. Whereas the caste system stays in place after this.
Right. And is rooted in like things totally, I mean, it's already out of your control, but like economically, that is like what is going to determine the rest of your, trajectory.
Like your romantic trajectory. If by romantic trajectory we mean looks. Like looks. Mm-hmm. And also to some degrees just socioeconomic pairings. Because those are the two things that feel like they're mostly determined by stuff out of your control plus business.
Definitely. Yeah.
Anyway, we could go on and on about that, but I feel like maybe the audience has heard enough. So, Maggie, do you mind if I tie this together? I'm going to tie this all together.
Adam, I would love nothing more than for you to somehow, out of the blue, tie both films together with some magical story.
Get out of here, Maggie. Get right out of here. So this is how the audience knows we had recording trouble, because we got this piece before. And now she has to pretend to be surprised. And she bailed on the bid altogether, which I appreciate, because I would have too. No, so the reason I love that you picked House of Wax was because what year were you in high school when that came out? Do you mind saying, like, roughly?
Yeah, I mean, I think it came out in 2005, right?
Right. 2005.
That was the time.
So but you're somewhere in high school in that time period.
Yes.
Okay, so in 2005, Adam Ganser is faux hawking his way in a members only jacket through all the dance rock scenes you can imagine with. Yes, I'm doing that. Yes, a thing that you and I are destined to talk about some more.
Oh, I can't wait.
With the only woman who I would say I had feelings bordering on love for. The only one. This one woman.
Oh, Adam.
She cared more about this the first time. I just want you to know.
I know I did. Now I'm like, okay, but
now you're like, oh, what am I going to do?
I love first loves.
So, her name, I believe we settled on Shannon was the name of this person. So I used to go to several different dance events with her a week. She was like, dance was what she loved. And so we would go to like these clubs in LA and do dancing there. And we would go to like she used to love fucking country western dancing, which was a thing at the time. Like swing dancing. Dancing was a thing at the time. And we were doing a lot of swing dancing. Yes. It was not country western. It was just in a country western bar. I keep getting mixed up.
Okay.
So we used to do swing dancing shit. Anyway, so like probably the night that things got closest to ever being something with her, we got a little drunk at this club and we're like, let's get breakfast like for dinner at like 3 a.m. or whatever, right?
Lovely.
So we're driving we shouldn't be driving, but we're driving down Sunset Boulevard because we're in our early 20s and dopes. And and we just pick a restaurant at random, some weird palatial restaurant off of Sunset Boulevard. So we pile into some booth and it's like pretty nice. And we're being loud assholes. And we hear this shush, Maggie. We heard a shush.
Okay.
And we look over, and the person shushing us was Paris Hilton. And she was making out. She was making out with a person from, I believe it was Backstreet Boys. It was one of the Backstreet Boys.
She
I need you to
dated
know
the
that was
Backstreet
happening.
Boy.
Yeah, it was happening.
In that
I see it.
time. Oh my
I saw
God.
it.
Oh,
I saw it with my own eyes. She, by the way, she was wearing she was wearing a lime green, like form-fitting dress, which only existed in that time period when like all those, remember when all those pastels came back?
Yeah.
She fucking brought them back herself with that dress.
Damn.
She cut through our fashion sense with that lime green dress like a razor blade. She looked like she glowed.
Oh,
I'm serious. She was very impressive looking. And we both were like, oh my God, it's Paris Hilton. And of course we didn't talk to her because we're not maniacs. But that's the moment where this podcast comes all together. You know, we're high schooling our way right to Paris Hilton complaining about us. Yeah. That's it. That's the whole story, Maggie. I did my best.
You did. I mean, it brings everything together. It also brings the time period together because that was the time. And to think that simultaneously I was in high school, you know, just watching Brokeback Mountain by myself in my portable DVD player while you were out falling in love and meeting Paris Hilton.
How did you like Brokeback Mountain in 2005?
I loved it, but that was like one of the first like queer pieces of cinema I had ever seen.
Yeah.
So it was big, but
okay. I remember as a person who it took a while to come around to healthier opinions about homosexuality because I was raised in a conservative home.
Yes.
Brokeback Mountain was a very important moment for the straight white dopes like me who were like,
well, me too.
Oh shit, this is like really good, you know.
Like, so I went to Catholic school, so I grew up with the similar opinions.
Yeah.
I think by that time, again, it was like years later from your high schooling that it was starting to
years,
so many years, decades. But, so it was like a little less, but it was still like one of my first like eye openers and helped me be like, oh, okay. And it's not just that, if you're gay, you only have sex with men. The thing that I think really stuck out to me was like, oh, it is kind of like a societal thing where it's like you can assimilate and like that really put in perspective for me.
Well, the fluidity of it, you mean? Or you mean the like the fact that they have to sort of fold back into a regular life?
I think both actually. Both the fluidity and also the aspect of like, people must be people are in hiding currently. Like if they, if they happen to be gay, they're probably still to this day not actually out about it. So
sure, of course. Both of those characters, I mean, we should just do a Brokeback Mountain conversation.
Yeah.
But both of those characters have pain that is so recognizable for everybody. Like it doesn't. I don't have to have had the same problem as either of them to totally identify with what that problem is like.
Yes.
And that's what's so powerful about the movie. It's like, oh man, particularly Heath Ledger's character, like just the pain he's going through is like, oh,
yes,
can't move on from it. Well, my Mags, we've had ourselves a time here.
Yes, that was pretty insightful. I love learning about your. It's like we're learning little puzzle pieces that, when we fit it together, help create the full
this
thing.
whole thing.
This whole thing.
this whole red pastiche on this side of the call. Well, that feels like a good time, as good a place as any, Maggie, to wrap things up.
Yes.
What a fun time we had, though.
What?
Right?
What a fun time. This was great.
It really was.
It really was.
It is always a good time. Yeah, so we may or may not be recording a patron-only episode of this podcast that we'll be releasing for those wonderful people who patronize Small Beans. And if you have enjoyed this show and would like to receive that episode when it comes out, you can go to our Patreon at patreon.com/smallbeans and donate a couple of bucks if you want, or if you want some of the sweeter treats, a couple more bucks than that, and those treats will be available to you. Also, if you like the podcast, you can go and give us a high rating on iTunes.
That'd be great.
Which will put it, it'll put it in front of new eyeballs. Which we will then collect as our own.
I was just about to make that joke. We were collecting the eyeballs to sell on the black market, so that really helped the, the continued
living
side
in Minority
hustle.
Report.
Yeah.
That was one of the weird parts of Minority Report.
Yeah.
Right? It's like they're collecting eyeballs. Anyway, so thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Mags, do you have anything you want to plug?
Yeah, guys, if you want to hang out with me online, you can follow my chaotic tweets all day long on my
they're wonderful.
Thank you.
They're a real treat in the time of COVID-19.
Oh, great. That's my goal. So it's just my name, Maggie Mayfish, MAE, not MAY.
Yeah.
By the way, PSA.
You put a lot of Toon mustard on that. You really slathered some Toon onto that declaration.
Oh, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're working on a wonderful little series of videos called Into the Snyderverse, where we are taking a look at Zack Snyder's filmography. So
you got some heat on the last one. I liked that.
I did. I mean, like, what other conclusion can you make with those three particular shots?
This old bear is not about to argue with Maggie because I like to win, and that's not going to happen if I argue with you. I loved it. I just noticed all the heat, and I was like, man, she's bringing down the thunder for this. I really like that.
I mean, it's I'm the one that can do it. I feel like.
At least you're the one that's gonna do it.
Yeah.
You can take it. I agree. You're very tough. I agree. You're thick-skinned in a good way. I like that about you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good. So again, a big thank you to everybody who voted on the poll that produced this episode. We will have another poll that we will have up for I want to say about a week to select the next episode that will be for all of you to enjoy. So feel free to check that out again on patreon.com/smallbeans. And Mags, much love to you.
Thank you. Much love to you.
What a pleasure.
What a pleasure.